Hello and welcome to our second LinkedIn Live of 2026. With Valentine's Day just around the corner, we have the perfect topic to bring to you today, professional matchmaking. Yes, we're going to be putting the spotlight right on job sharing and the world of job sharing, which is exactly what it deserves. So, thank you very much for joining us. I am delighted to be joined by this panel. The discerning audience members amongst you will notice that I'm not, in fact, Susie Asprey. It's just as much a disappointment to me as it is to everyone else, but Susie is sadly unwell today, so I've stepped in to chair this session. And so, Susie, rest up, recover. We're looking forward to having you back. We wish you a speedy recovery, and thank you for all that you've done to raise awareness and catalyse the conversation about the important topic of job sharing, including putting this event on and creating this event today, which we're bringing to you to hopefully remove some of the perceived barriers of job sharing. We'll be, giving you practical advice, tips, insider insight to how job shares can work, whether you are an employer reflecting on your flexible working policy and your inclusive recruitment practices, or indeed an individual wanting to break the mold of that 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. If that simply isn't working for you, but you want to use all your expertise, knowledge and skills still and make an impact really where you can outside of that traditional model, today is for you. As I said, today is for you. We really want to hear from you. We want to get your questions answered. I know Anna and Elizabeth do as well. So if you do have questions as we go through the conversation, please do put them in the comments. We'll do our best to get to them today, and anything that we're not able to, we will try to address them at a later date for you. So thank you for putting, to the audience, for giving some of your time today, this week, into this important approach to working. We hope that you enjoy the conversation, you get a lot out of it as well. As I said, this is something that we're hugely passionate about at Inspired. I remember I was sitting next to Susie in the office when the article in the summer came out by the wonderful Heloise Wood in the bookseller, really putting the spotlight on job shares and the importance of them. That we can't be losing this top talent in the industry simply because that 9 to 5, Monday to Friday approach just doesn't work for everyone. And it really struck a chord with us, and I'll never forget the reaction on Susie and all of us at Inspired. We've got to do something about this. And so since then, Susie's been leading a project at Inspire to raise more awareness of this, as I said, break down some of those barriers, talking to more publishers about how they can approach it, and also encouraging more people to come forward that are interested in this way of working and ultimately matchmaking as well. So this event is one of many that we'll be doing as we continue the conversation that you're all glad to be part of about job sharing. So, as I've said, I'm sadly not Susie Asprey. I'm Abigail Barkley, the Managing Director of Inspired Search, the Executive Search Division here at Inspired. And delighted to be joined by Anna and Elizabeth, who I'm proud to introduce to you now. So, Anna McLaughlin has worked as a book publicist for over 25 years at a range of independent and larger publishers as well. She's worked on many best-selling and award-winning campaigns across nearly every genre, I think. Currently, a campaigns director at Quercus, which is part of the John Murray Group at Hachette, working in a part-time job share with Elizabeth, as well as freelancing as a poetry anthologist and publicist. Elizabeth is a publicity director at Quercus Books, heading up the company's publicity team. She was instrumental in launching the company's literary imprint River Run, and has worked across campaigns, again, across a huge range of genres in the last 17 years. Elizabeth has worked on several Publishers Publicity Circle and award-winning campaigns, including the Enid Blyton for Grown Up series, which was shortlisted for the Nibby's PR campaign of the year. Anna, Elizabeth, thank you so much for giving us your lived experience of sharing. We are so looking forward to hearing from you. To start then, Elizabeth, perhaps you could shed some light on how this perfect match, how this job share came about, and what made you say yes to it.
Well, thank you so much for such a glowing introduction. I hope we can live up to it. The pressure.
No pressure.
Also, when we say things like we've been working for 17 and 25 years, it was so odd that we are so young as well. Thank you so much.
Like those memes. Like, well, I'm only 25 still. How? Born in 2000, still 25.
Maths really doesn't work out there, but yeah, thank you so much to you and to Susie, formerly of this parish, for platforming such an important topic and for approaching it so positively as well. It's really delightful to be here, so thank you. So to go back to your question, I took parental leave in 2018 and Anna covered my role during that time. And then when I returned in 2019, we began job sharing and have been doing so ever since, albeit in a slightly different form now to when we first started. On parental leave, I sort of confidentially floated my reticence, not reluctance, just reticence about coming back full time for lots of reasons. I think one, making the finances work, childcare is astronomical, which won't be a shock to anybody on this call. The trickiness of the commute. Anna and I both live outside of London, so we've got 2 hours door to door. And also my husband works full time and he travels often. So the last reason was, I think, the most problematic. So prior to the pandemic, I submitted a request to work from home 1 day a week, just to ease that burden. And things like seeing your child for 15 minutes a day if the train was on time didn't really seem, from my perspective, to be quite the work-life balance I was striving for. So the job share was actually suggested by our business's then MD and comms director as a possible arrangement. And I think it's worked beautifully ever since and has kept both of our careers going, and nothing is burning at the home front. Long may that continue.
Anna, is there anything you'd like to add from that, from your perspective?
Yeah, so I covered Elizabeth's parental leave, as she says, and it had never occurred to me that would be something that I wouldn't be out of there in 2019. It had never occurred to me that would be an ongoing sort of position. So when our then boss proposed it was completely, I feel like we were very, very lucky in that this was offered to us rather than us campaigning for it. But immediately I thought, gosh, that sounds amazing. It would give Elizabeth the kind of the ability to come back into work and not have to go full time immediately, but without falling into what I think many of us would acknowledge can be a real trap of the 5-day-a-week job in 4 days a week, where you take a 20% pay cut, but you take no cut in your workload. And really you're sort of, now that everyone is very connected all the time, you are on all the time, you are picking things up, you are responding to things, because we're conscientious people and we don't want to drop balls. So the beauty of the job share, I think, for both of us, is that on the days that we're not in the office, we are genuinely not in the office. And Elizabeth now obviously is full-time because we've been through several different iterations, but I'm 2 days a week at Quercus, and the other 3 days a week I am off duty. I know Elizabeth is there and everything is under control.
I can just feel the weight lifting off shoulders of the audience right now. Just like, this sounds, I know, is this real life? It sounds amazing. And you both mentioned there that the solution, this job share as a solution, was presented to you, and so it wasn't something that you presented and you have to kind of fight for. Have you seen much pushback from employers, over the years to it, or have you experienced that from other people that are job sharing?
Well, I mean, I think Quercus and Hachette were super supportive of this, particularly in light of the fact that I think we were the first job share in Hachette, so this is not a sort of usual situation. I've definitely seen pushback for flexible working requests, or if not pushback, then a sort of, we'll approve this, but I'm not entirely convinced it's going to work kind of mentality. Not necessarily from our stable, but anecdotally from friends across the industry. We were very lucky, and I think we'll hopefully talk a little bit about this later, but when we talk about job share, we talk about the loss of ego. And let me tell you, returning from parental leave, you want the person who's been sat in your seat to be good. You don't want them to be so good that they suggest they stay on. So that takes you down a few pegs, let me tell you that for free. So to be able to remove that ego and to trial this system has been a great privilege. And no, we haven't had pushback, and I hope that continues.
And that's a really powerful message to send to the audience as well, that may anticipate pushback that just might not happen, but it's perhaps hard to imagine a world where they present it and they get, oh yeah, that sounds like a great idea. That could be hard to imagine, and that just might be the reality, so have that confidence. The ego that you mentioned absolutely is something that we'll come to, but I didn't want to move on too quickly from it, because I think it's a really important point, and it was certainly something in that the article from Heloise Wood in the summer that I think you both spoke about there, and this idea that that it's about the success of the role. It's not about your name being attached, your individual name being attached to it. It really becomes about the work being done. Have you noticed a shift to that, or what advice would you have about leaving the ego at home?
I don't think we were just talking about this actually before we came on, weren't we? That not having an ego is not the same as not being ambitious. We are so ambitious for our authors and for our campaigns. We want everything we do to be brilliant, obviously. But I think if you are someone who really very much needs that sort of personal acknowledgement and needs their name out there, and then I think it could be difficult. I think there are people who would find it difficult. We share the spotlight and we share the wins, and when things are not going so well, we work together to fix them. So I think that is an important point. There are people perhaps who would find that difficult,
harder than others. And
I think just to add very quickly, unless you're willing to talk about somebody else in the same breath as talking about your successes, then again, this is probably not the arrangement that works well for you.
Very good. Oh, more generally in teams, what a great lesson. As teams, we should be talking about each other in the same breath. Obviously, a job share relies on you doing ultimately the same job on different days. How do you divide responsibilities? To talk us about that decision-making process to arrive at that structure. So you're not duplicating, but you are sharing.
Well, sometimes we do strategically duplicate, which is a real behind the
Sometimes it can be a bit of a secret weapon. If there's someone the other person has chased a couple of times, sometimes we are very, very communicative about where we are at with every campaign, and very organized in that sense, and it wouldn't work if we weren't. But occasionally there have been times when we're waiting for an answer on something, and we can say, oh, I don't know if you spoke to my job share partner, Elizabeth, about this. I know full well that Elizabeth has been in touch with them on Friday, and so
not from Elizabeth from Friday. Okay.
Or equally, I would love to do this, but unfortunately, Elizabeth, the budget has really been cut down by her, so I'm sorry, our hands are tied. There's a little bit of that, but I promise you, it is a very honest relationship, despite the way we may have positioned it. So I think Anna alluded to it earlier. Our job share is quite an unusual case in that, to borrow your words, it has had several different iterations. So it began on 3-2 with me doing 3 days, Anna doing 2, and then we progressed to 4-2, which was wonderful. That was a game changer because we had a crossover day, and I think that really allowed us to understand each other's strengths, and it allowed us to really form that work wife for life mentality. And then about 3 years ago, 2023, I became publicity director, and so moved up to 5 days a week full time. And then Anna, as you heard in your amazing introduction, does wonderful things in her 3 days that are not with Quercus, that are deeply, deeply impressive and bring us all much shame about our chosen career paths. But the division of labour in its sort of most basic form is that we share campaigns for the most part. And then in addition, on those other days, I have the great pleasure and privilege of managing the publicity team at Quercus, and then a couple of other bits and bobs outside the sort of wider strategy group stuff. So we have one inbox that we share, and then I've got a separate one for any of the sort of confidential or non-campaigns related stuff. And it's not quite as scary as it sounds. I think 2 inboxes sounds awful on paper, but it's fine.
You know where to go for each. Yeah.
And I would definitely say logistically that the shared inbox, which we took advice from someone who had previously job shared, I think we're all so used to having our own inbox. Obviously, it feels a bit like having someone in your bedroom, to start off with. Like, when it was first put forward, it was a bit like, oh, but I have to say, I would find it very difficult to see a way of it working without that inbox. Because otherwise you'd have to copy each other into everything. You'd spend all of your sort of crossover day going through everything that had happened. And when you're asked on, a day when you're in, where are we at with this? Has this been sent? Has this been pitched? Has this been chased? Our sent items is our Bible. And then we can look at it and say, yes, Elizabeth chased this last week. This was the response. Everything is there. I think it would be so difficult without.
Allows the sum to be greater than the whole to be greater than the sum of the parts, rather than being diluted. What thinking about your department, what benefits do you think a job share has, particularly for publicity and your division?
Oh, hold my beer. There's a big list here.
Yeah. The contact books for a start.
Yeah.
The experience that we have, there are lots of areas that, one of us is more experienced in than the other, but between us, I can't think of a single thing that we haven't done at some point. Also, different interests, there are books that are going to appeal. I'm a massive history geek, so anything history, Elizabeth. And there are books that we know will appeal more to one than the other, and therefore, you've got someone with that specialism and that passion. But then we work together to fill in all those gaps.
I agree with everything you said. I think we are. This is not the moment. I think both of us are quite modest, and I think our careers have been promoting other people, so we're trying today to just go like we are.
Get the trumpets out, blow them. You're amazing.
It's quite a uncomfortable situation in that sense, but I think we are experienced with the thornier issues, I think, because of that longevity of service. So those sort of sensitive campaigns, I would say both of us are broadly unflappable. It doesn't often happen that one of us will flap, but when we do, the other one will normally be quite calm. So there is help there. I would say practically speaking, it's very rare for one of us to be out of the office, for both of us to be out of the office at the same time. So if a team member needs something, or an external stakeholder needs something, we are probably there. You can divide touring responsibilities, you can divide external meetings, which also helps on the home front as well. You're not spending weeks and weeks on tour, which we all did for many happy years. Doesn't sort of work now. We can't do it in quite the same way. You can, perhaps you can. You just need a heck of a lot more scheduling in advance. We've talked about the good cop, bad cop, which I, very tongue in cheek, but I do think that is important. And I would also say, again, happens rarely, but we have disagreed on approaches at times. And so you do get that, I think this, or actually I think this. Okay, let's arrive here. And so I feel quite confident that every time we put something forward, be it a pitch or an opinion or a pushback, that is the best possible solution that our mighty brains have arrived at with the two of us. So I do feel, the end result is better because there's been two of us.
So considered, so kind of sense checked and stress tested everything, and you're not kind of running away with an idea. It's such creative roles as well, simply because it on gut, you've got the other person to talk you up as well as down when you need to, and make sure that you're making the decisions on things that you agreed, the shared values, the results, the outcomes that you want. I can really see that.
I think we are aligned on things an astonishing amount of the time. Our feedback is often very aligned, but I also think each of us has more confidence in that viewpoint, because we will bounce it off each other. And then when we discover we're aligned, you go into that meeting, you go into that pitch with, you know, double the amount of confidence that I you know, if this is what I think and Elizabeth thinks it, I know it's right.
Yeah, it's right. Yeah. And what's it given you in your career? What's it enabled in your career that full time just wouldn't have done? Anna, I'll come to you, because we've already had a sneak peek or some into some of the other things that you've done.
Well, for me, I feel so lucky to have this portfolio career. So I've been editing poetry anthologies since 2009, and I sort of produce those books, but also I give talks about them. I can do school events, you know, I chair literary events. Having the freedom to do all that alongside the publicity work, but being able to still be in-house, to be working as part of a team, to work genuinely part-time, rather than sort of nominally part-time, it's just been absolutely amazing. It was such a gift. And when I come in on a Thursday, you know, it's sort of towards the end of the week, and I'm just full of enthusiasm, you know, and I don't stop thinking about Ag Workers campaigns the rest of the week. You know, I'm always tapping away on Instagram and looking for, you know, I don't switch off from it, but I also have the time and the freedom to kind of pursue other career goals, which has been just wonderful. I also sorry, my husband works long hours on site and has very little flexibility in his work, so it has also enabled me to pick up the pieces of aged parents, small children, the family. The family bits.
When you spoke about coming on a Thursday full of enthusiasm, I think when you were talking about the benefits of job sharing, I can just imagine that consistent level of energy that the job gets must be amazing for you, for the team, for everyone around you, to think that every day there's this, you know, a fresh, relatively fresh anyway, as fresh as any of us are, energy that you're giving to the role. So Elizabeth, please do share your thoughts.
That you've nailed the kind of the softer element of the job share, which I very much enjoy. Is, you know, sometimes by Wednesday you have lived half a life and you've experienced things, and then Anna comes in on Thursday and suddenly it's just a sort of injection into your veins of energy and enthusiasm, and it brings something different, and the team enjoy that. You know, Anna is a much cherished and valued colleague, so this is just me talking today, but if the team were behind me, they would say exactly the same thing. I think slightly differently. So I don't have all this wonderful stuff going on outside of Hachette. If Hachette burns, like, I burn. Like, there's nothing else going. Anna's got this amazing portfolio. But I would say the job share has given growth. So again, the ability to sort of say to somebody, regardless of how senior you are, the ability to say to someone, "Have I got this right?" is incredibly comforting. And I would never not find that comforting. There's a lot where you're on your own, and that's fine. You trust your gut, you trust your experience, but it is lovely to be able to say, do you feel that this lands? And I derive a great degree of comfort from that. I think that it is important and exciting to try something new. I am an inherently quite a restless soul, and I don't enjoy coasting. I like learning and trying something new. And this is a new way of working, and that's exciting, and that brings new challenges. And again, to sort of step on the softer side of things, but it's nice to have another working parent in the team, so you can sort of 9 a.m. some mornings you can look them in the eye and you know without saying that you have lived half a life by 9 a.m. It's really comforting sometimes just to go, "You okay?" "Yeah, I'm okay." And you both know that you've had one heck of a morning. And then
but you've done the 5 to 9 before the 9 to 5 starts, kind of thing. It's
5 feels like a lion. Is that, I think, as we alluded to before, I mean, life just is busy. You know, we do have, Anna and I both have 2 children and caring responsibilities for parents, seemingly relentlessly ill pets, which is super fun. And sometimes life just gets in the way, and I think it would be remiss of us not to say, like, gym kits forgotten and prescriptions need to be collected. So sometimes you can say, "I just need to dart out for 10 minutes." And nothing is lost. Like this, I mean, I hasten to add, at all turns, the work is done. The work is never late. It's always to a good standard. And if that wasn't the case, then there wouldn't be the support. So this just allows a bit of life to come through the cracks.
Breathe. Yeah.
And I think we will try wherever we can to be quite protective of each other. You know, if Elizabeth is ill, and she'll sometimes say, you know, if anything comes up, text me, and I'll message and say, don't text her, text me. You know,
yes, okay.
Even if it's not necessarily my day in the office, sometimes, you know, we
you're really truly
we
sharing.
will step up for each other. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we know that the other one would do that for us.
I can really imagine in what you do as well. You know, when you do take a campaign idea to externally or even to the team, you need to be so confident in it to get the buy-in, right? And so to have had that, I am right on this, aren't I? With someone else, is so empowering.
Yeah.
And on that, sort of thinking about taking your work outside and internally in the team, how do you manage that visibility as individuals, as a pair? You know, do people know who to come to for what? Is there, or is it just so shared that it kind of works?
That's a great question. I think in terms of visibility, we do things like this. And we do interviews with done lots of trade interviews before. I would say people are comfortable knowing when the campaign stuff is shared, so that's a very easy. You can come to either one of us, and either one of us should be able to answer with the same degree of knowledge. Occasionally that is not the case, but for very strategic reasons, we've taken different campaigns, or there is a reason behind it. Like Anna will sometimes do something that really appeals to her specialisms and interests. And I might have to be out in the autumn. Cats, anyone into cats in the street. Deep niche. I would say the core takeaway is fundamentally the best form of visibility is doing a good job. We have award wins, we have won acquisitions, we have bestsellers, and obviously this is all a sort of collective responsibility with all of the other departments across John Murray. But if we were failing miserably, it would be much harder to justify this arrangement.
But you're quite the opposite.
That shared inbox, when we send an update, it comes from both of us, because every campaign, or almost every campaign, is shared between us.
Yeah, so it's everything is as a pair. It's
we're often in pitches and author meetings together, but we can sort of split those between us if needs be. If one of us has to be at an author event and the other one is needed in a pitch, either one of us can do either one of these things. We've got that flexibility.
This is a true example of a really true job share, rather than two people coexisting running something together, isn't it? Which is slightly different, which we have seen in the industry. But this is a really true. You're sharing. You are the people to go to. We've spoken a lot about kind of caring responsibilities and what it can give us as humans as well. Whether that's children, aged parents, or pets, which and as we know from the data, a lot of which came out during the pandemic, a lot of those caring responsibilities do end up falling on women. Statistically, it's higher, certainly not always. But how else do you think job shares can support publishers to retain experienced senior level women and other underrepresented groups?
I think just offering that flexibility, wouldn't you say, Elizabeth?
Yeah, I think my husband read a book a few years ago, so I'm going to do a terrible job of rehashing this, but it's called Drive by Daniel Pink, I think it is. And when it talks, is sort of the central argument to the book is that whilst money is a motivator, and we all have to pay our mortgages, we all have to pay our childcare, money is the motivator. But once that is done and it is effective up to a certain point, and employees feel like they've been fairly paid, the other intrinsic motivators come into play, and that looks specifically at like mastery, autonomy, and purpose. So you can become you can work at a much higher level if you feel like you've got those other things, those other three things, for example, in your armory as well. Whereas if it's just about money, that only takes you to a certain.
It's not fulfilling.
I understand that's a very privileged comment. We're talking about obviously
we're able to, yeah.
But I think that giving people that you're an adult, you can do the job, and we trust you to do it. That's incredibly empowering. It should be employed more.
And I think when the article that I've referred to that came out in the summer and the one since have cited, just the imperative nature with which we should look at job shares because of this, because we are losing particularly that demographic of women in their 40s for whom, as you say, life is, you're in that squeeze middle of children perhaps and parents perhaps, or other things going on in just the world, the existence of being human, that we're losing that talent who have networked for perhaps 20 years in publishing, if not more, had built relationships internally with people, with other authors, everything that there should be a way of capturing that and nurturing that in a way that people can thrive and not resent the day-to-day of it.
And you've got to protect that, because otherwise we're just raising the next and thinking about our brilliant team. In 10 years' time, they'll be doing exactly what we're doing, and the cycle starts again. So unless you protect the
role model,
let's say what it is, the women in their 40s, unless you protect that core set of people in this industry, you will not have that foundation of knowledge and experience. And then the next people who come and do it will also struggle. So if you can just try and break that cycle with a little bit more agility and flexibility, I think it will pay dividends in the long run.
And as you were saying, publishers being really not just open to it, but explicitly open to it, talking about this loudly, exemplifying this loudly, having in job adverts that they'd welcome applications from job shares. There's quite practical things that we've done with other areas of DE&I as an industry that can be implemented. It can be really powerful. If anyone's watching and thinking, this, sign me up, where do I sign? I would love to job share. What advice would you, but they're, maybe perhaps slightly unsure, what advice would you give them today?
So someone considering who wanted to work in a job share.
Exactly, yeah.
I think the important thing to think about initially is who you might do that with, if there's someone that but I know there are people who've come to me to say, gosh, I'd love to work in the way that you do, but that there isn't anyone I can sort of think of off the top of my head who would definitely be keen to do this. So I think what Inspired are doing to try and matchmake, beyond people's personal networks is just a brilliant idea, because you do need a partner to do it with, and you ideally do need someone who you kind of feel that you would work in a similar way with, so that it could work seamlessly.
Yeah, thank you, and Anna. And on that, we would love to hear from you. As I think again in that article, if you are interested in sharing a job with someone, being a job sharer, please do email Susie Astbury, s.astbury@inspiredselection.com with your CV and a bio about yourself. We'll be delighted to have a conversation. Elizabeth, and any other words of pearls of wisdom for people considering?
Pearls of wisdom perhaps not, but I would say that I think this arrangement becomes more manageable when you are at a certain level. I would imagine this is quite tricky if you're cutting your teeth and you do need that name. You do need to go, I did this, this was my work and my responsibility and my achievement. You do need that. We all need that degree in the beginning. So I think that I would encourage you to already have your key stakeholders, you've made your big plays, and this is the next step of your career, and just make a business plan as you would do with anything else. Make a business plan, show anecdotally and show substantiated reasons why this works for a business. You can't come in and say, if I'd come to David Shelley and said, I've got
this a really good for me,
and my husband works really far away, can I please do this? That would have gone down really well, as you can imagine. So if you talk to your peers and understand why this works from a business perspective, and as I said before, who knows if this arrangement will continue to work. I hope it does. Hachette has always been super supportive, but I think, as I'll come back to what I said before, we wouldn't be afforded this if it wasn't working. So
yes, quite, yeah, absolutely.
Onwards we go, and we keep fighting that fight.
So we love working this way, and we've talked a lot
Yeah.
about the advantages there are for the employees, but I just think for the, you know, you need to make a really firm case of what the business is getting out of here. You know, this arrangement that there's not going to be, there's almost never a week when we're both out of the office all week.
Yeah.
You know, there's the breadth of experience, the breadth of sort of contacts, and, you know, the ability to kind of split the workload so that you can be in two places at once. But, you know, you obviously, if you're making a pitch to a business, need to show how the advantages work for them.
Yes.
And I think also, if you're, you know, again, I think Hachette is the one of the Times top 50 employers for people returning from parental leave, and it's because of systems like this in place. Like it's attractive. You retain, you get new talent, and you retain your existing talent by being able to say, you know, we see you and we hear you. You are people as well as publicists and managers. So I think
to achieve both the diversity of thought and the consistency in leadership is just, as an employer, that's, you know, that's a dream waiting to happen. Which does lead me on to my next question. Before I do, just a reminder to those watching, if you do have any questions, please do just pop them in the comments, and we'll try to get to them. If not, I'm sure all of us are willing to be contacted afterwards, and we'll do our best to answer them. What you've touched upon there in terms of level that people are at, approaches to working, I think is a really important point about who this might not be suitable for. And it sounds incredible, and it sounds, you know, it's very clear that this works beautifully. Who might job sharing not be suitable for?
I think you need to be quite, we are very organized. You need to be very organized, and you can't be someone who sort of has it all in their head because there's somebody else's head involved. And actually, when I was covering Elizabeth's parental leave, I very consciously kept all of her ways of working. So I very consciously kept the format in which she did her notes, because I thought, well, you know, I'm here for a year, I need to do a good job, but I needed to hand this back to Elizabeth so that, you know, it's as she would expect to find it. I wanted very much for her to have that continuity, and it to be easy to step back in and know exactly where she was with stuff. So I think probably I was maybe someone who didn't have the tidiest desk or inbox necessarily when I worked solo. The work got done, but I feel like Elizabeth always impressed me with the fact that she was naturally very, very organized. So I worked in that way while I was covering her. And then when she came back, we were able to work together quite seamlessly. You know, we like a clean inbox. We have 100 million folders in our email for everything. Everything is filed. If you are someone who doesn't sort of do that slightly anally retentive organization, we keep very detailed notes on every campaign so that the other one can go in and see what's been done, you know, so we don't duplicate efforts, so that we know
you're not losing too much time to the handover.
You're not losing too much time. If we're asked on a day when we're the only one in, exactly where is this, you know, standing, if there's an author or an agent or an editor who needs to know exactly where we are with things, we have that at our fingertips. So I would say, if you are someone who kind of keeps all that stuff in your head and is not very organized, you would struggle because the communication just won't be there with your partner.
Yeah. I don't have any no notes because we dream this. I think it would be good to again talk about the ego, and I think over the years I definitely can think of situations when I've done it very well, and situations when I've not done it quite as well, when you just become a little bit, you know, a bit more human shows through. But I would say you should aim to ditch your ego at the door. You have to be really comfortable with the work being shared, and with every single bit of praise is not your praise, it's shared praise. So you've got to be able to talk about someone, and if you feel that you're in a meeting and somebody said, God, that campaign was brilliant, or like really well done getting that over the line, you have to go, thank you, that was a joint effort between the two of us. Or if you're writing, and even if it's not, I mean, sometimes we just like, sometimes Anna will steamroller in a campaign and it's 90% her work, or sometimes I will do the same and it's 90% my work. It doesn't matter, because when I have been afforded that non-campaign time, I've done something else here that's management or strategy, it still works. Like it wouldn't, we have a really high workload and title count with some big brand authors, some buzzy debut fiction, big non-fiction, and that large amount of workload would not be possible if we weren't able to do what we can do at the moment. So
the very fact that you can give 90% to a campaign is only possible because Anna or the other one of you exists and allows you to be you and allows you to say yes to coming into work and in the way that you do.
Sorry, just one on a practical note. Also, if you want full salary, benefits, pension, bonus, holiday entitlement, don't work part time. A really basic thing that people will sort of forget, that it impacts every single. When you go to do your pension, you realise you've had a few years of working full part time. It's sort of a sobering experience. So I do have to think about how that looks. On your kind of bigger life plans.
If you're someone that's considering part-time anyway, then this might be a way to operate at the level that you want, or with it being truly part-time. But if you're not able to consider part-time, then as you say, that's probably not for you. Fantastic. Okay, we're nearly at time. But what one message would you love every publisher to walk away with today?
I think you know what we're going to say. I mean, I'm completely evangelical about this way of working. I think it gives so much. We're able to give so much to our authors and to our campaigns. The two heads better than one. I love it as a way of working that's allowed me to do other things, outside of my PR work, and stay sane and be constantly excited by my work and constantly enthusiastic and thinking about new ideas. And the two halves of my work often kind of feed into each other, and it's just such an exciting and brilliant way to work. And so I would, and I see so many women of a similar age to me who just cannot sustain an in-house career anymore. And I see the loss of that incredible experience and talent. And it's, obviously,
and the loss is painful for both sides, isn't it? The publishers are losing the talent and the expertise that's right there at their fingertips, and the individuals are losing the career that's probably been a huge part of their identity. They've given everything to, and it's a loss, as you're saying here, that can be avoided with an amazing solution.
So as you say, perhaps when jobs are advertised saying, we would also be open to or flexible working or partnerships, or just to kind of everything that we do like this, which raises the profile of this way of working, I think can help not only employees, but the industry as well.
Yeah, I agree. Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Oh my dear.
Recognise the benefits of what a more flexible working pattern can bring to a business. I think if it aligns with your business needs and your business mission, then it's really crucial to provide a work life that's flexible and gives your employees control, autonomy, and scope to set their own working agenda. So it boosts talent retention, it boosts morale, it boosts purpose, and all of those things combined mean profit. So profit's good. I mean, I'm no accountant, but I can figure that side of things.
I've heard great things. Yeah,
it's crucial. But I do think it is very important. If it aligns with your mission, there are jobs where this is not possible. So lucky us that we found the career that we can do with this kind of arrangement. But it seems almost inexcusable that the conversation could not at least be had and entertained seriously in this day and age.
Absolutely. Well, lucky us for having you both with us today. Thank you so much. Thank you again to Susie for sharing your job with me today. This is Job Sharing Live, as you can see. I have thoroughly enjoyed the chance to meet you both and share this 45 minutes with our audience as well. I think hearing about the diversity of thought that it can bring organisations is just incredible. With the right level of organisation, communication, egos at the door, we can make more of an impact with more of the talent that we've got in this amazing industry. So thank you both for sharing your wonderful lived experiences with us. I've really appreciated that. If anything about job sharing, hiring job shares is of interest to you, please do get in touch with Inspired and Susie Asprey, our chief exec in particular. As I said, s.asprey@inspiredselection.com. Would love to hear more from you, and we'll have more of these events relating to job sharing over the course of this year, and tools and guidance coming from us as well. It's such an important approach to embrace, and we're here for it. We're here for the conversation. Any of you attending the IPG conference tomorrow, see you there, or perhaps see you otherwise at London Book Fair next month. But for now, all that's left for me to say is thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your day.